On behalf of the League of Women Voters of the Spokane area and Spokane City Cable 5, welcome to our 2019 General Election Candidate Forum featuring candidates for Spokane City Council, District 3, Position 1. We also welcome KHQ-TV, who is live streaming this event. I'm Ann Murphy, your moderator, and Sally Phillips of the League is our timer. The general election is Tuesday, November 5th, 2019. In this forum, the candidates will have an opportunity to present themselves to the voters, and the voters will have an opportunity to learn more about each candidate, helpfully making an informed decision when marking their ballots. The questions I will be asking for the candidates have been formulated by the League's Voter Service Committee. Candidates are seated in alphabetical order, and the first speaker will rotate with each question. Candidates will have up to 1 minute to answer our initial question and then up to 90 seconds to answer subsequent questions, with additional time for rebuttal or follow-up question as appropriate. Each candidate will have the opportunity for a 1-minute closing statement. I will ask as many questions as time allows. Our timer will hold up a yellow card when the speaker has 15 seconds remaining and a red card to indicate time is up. Now, before we proceed, a reminder about voting. You must be registered to vote. You can register online by October 28th, 2019, up to 8 days prior to Election Day. Any mail-in or paper forms must be received in the elections office by October 28th. And new this year is same-day voter registration. During the 8 days prior to Election Day, there are 2 places where you may register in person: the Spokane County Elections Office at 1033 West Gardner, or Center Place, 2426 North Discovery Place in Spokane Valley. The hours are Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 4 p.m., and then 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. on Election Day. When you register, you will be provided a ballot for voting. Other registration changes are automatic voter registration when eligible citizens interact with state agencies, and pre-registration that allows our 16, 17-year-olds to pre-register for voting, and then they will be registered when they turn 18. Registered voters will receive their mail-in ballots about 3 weeks prior to Election Day. Returned ballots must be postmarked or deposited in conveniently located ballot boxes no later than 8 p.m. on Election Day, November 5th, 2019. Ballots can be dropped off on Election Day at one of the voter service centers. For locations of ballot boxes or voter service centers or information about accessible voting units or other questions about your ballot, please contact the Spokane County Elections Office, 477-2320. Contact information for candidates as well as a voter's guide can also be found on the website at the Spokane County Elections Office. Additional election information can be found on the state website at votewa.gov and on the League of Women Voters online voter guide, vote411.org. And now we'll meet the candidates for City Council, District 3, Position 1. This is a nonpartisan race, and only the voters in the City of Spokane Council 3 will vote between these 2 candidates. That district is the northwest portion of the city, generally north of I-90 and west of Division. Joining us today are Andy Rathbun and Karen Stratton. Candidates will have up to 1 minute to answer our first question, and we'll begin with Mr. Rathbun. What do you consider are the most important duties of a city council member, and what specific training, experience, and skills do you have that have prepared you for these responsibilities? 1 minute, Mr. Rathbun.
Thank you to the League of Women Voters. It's great to be here. I feel very fortunate to be in the general election. I believe the most important aspect of this job is being able to meet with all people. My opponent isn't willing to do this. I want to read to you a piece from the Inlander from this past July. It says, in fact, 4 years ago, due to frustration over the mayor's endorsement of her opponent and a comment that he made about being unaware of her marijuana farm, she stopped having regular meetings with Mayor David Condon. She said, we'll never meet again, and I think that's fine, Stratton says. She'll only speak with him on rare occasions she felt it was necessary. Ladies and gentlemen, we cannot tackle the complex issues facing our city if we pay people to represent us and they won't meet with one of the most important policymakers. I learned from my parents and in school and during my career in the Air Force and on the neighborhood council, and I even teach my grandkids now that we need to work together and get along with everybody to accomplish our goals, especially when we're getting paid to do so.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Stratton?
Could you please repeat the question?
Yes, I will. What do you consider are the most important duties of a city council member, and what specific training, experience, and skills do you have that have prepared you for these responsibilities?
Having served on the city council for the last 4 years, I can tell you, besides the legislation, the policy, and passing a budget, the most important thing is listening to your constituents. And I have never taken that for granted, and I will listen to constituents over political stripes or individuals who may have more power in the community, but I usually will listen to constituents first. I attend almost every neighborhood meeting. Sometimes we double up, and I miss a few, but I've spent hour after hour in my neighborhood council meetings listening to what people want and what they would like to see for the community. That is what is most important to me, and it's taking their visions back to the entire council and talking about what we can do to make it a reality, and I'm proud of that work.
Okay, thank you. Now, moving on to some other questions, we'll have a little bit more time for this, and our next question will go first to Ms. Stratton, and it will be a takeoff on how I think you just ended. To what extent have you taken actions to familiarize yourself with the issues important to the residents in your district? And then based on these actions, what are the 3 most important issues in your district, and what specific steps will you take to address them?
So not only attending neighborhood meetings is important, but I've also learned in those interactions that it's important to communicate, especially with those residents that either disagree with you or come into a meeting angry and they're frustrated. And that is where you can get so much information on what it is that people need to be happy and have a good quality of life in their neighborhoods. I am happy to say one of my best memories of working in neighborhoods is working up with the Indian Trail neighborhood up in North Indian Trail. They have a very involved neighborhood council. We had a developer who wanted a code change, a zone change, to put in additional apartment buildings. And we encouraged, every time I would see them, I would encourage them to call us, let us know how you're feeling about this. You know, what you say matters. We got over 800 emails from residents up in North Indian Trail. And as a result of that and that public input, I was able to sit down with my council members and say, this is why North Indian Trail doesn't want this development. I mean, it comes that close to those communications when you make those decisions. I've done the same issues in West Central with Dutch Jake Park and crime. So there really is that, that connection and listening and being able to take that feedback and bring it back and create some good policy and get the support to make that a reality in that neighborhood.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Rathbun?
Could you repeat the question just one more time?
Certainly. To what extent have you taken actions to familiarize yourself with issues important to the residents in your district? And then based on those actions, what are the 3 most important issues in your district, and what specific steps will you take to address them?
Right. Well, I've lived in the West Central neighborhood now for almost 30 years. I've been very involved in the community and invested. I've been on the board of directors of the West Central Community Center. I was for over 20 years, and on the neighborhood council as previous stints as chair and vice chair. And I've been very invested in the neighborhood with rental homes. And I know that area very well, and over the course of this campaign, I've doorbelled over 4,000 homes moving up into the north part of the district. And I've found time and time again, people are concerned about public safety, to include the homeless issues downtown and property crimes, and they're worried about traffic and our roads and infrastructure for the most part. in the Indian Trails area, the traffic has, I look at a map and I see that there just doesn't seem to be enough outlets up there. And I have to wonder if we can't build another road between Indian Trail and 9 Mile Road to get another outlet. As far as the property crimes and the homeless issues, we need to bolster our police presence in the downtown and in the neighborhood and go with, I'm finished.
Okay, thank you. So we're coming at traffic issues, public safety, homeless, and infrastructure. So we'll start off with looking at the report that Spokane has approximately 350 of the what are called zombie homes spread throughout the city. These houses have a great impact on the neighborhoods, the quality of life there. So how prevalent is this problem in your district, and are existing ordinances adequate to address it? And if not, what changes do you see need to be made? And are there procedural steps that could be improved to address the ongoing problem? And we'll start with you, Mr. Rathbun. This will be a 90-second one.
Yeah. Zombie homes are usually houses that are locked in the system, typically because the homeowner has failed to keep current, and sometimes it's because of an illness or a death. Maybe it's in probate. But usually these homes are in some sort of a foreclosure process, and it takes time to sort out the title. And during this time, the houses fall in disrepair, they usually become abandoned, and they're a blight on the neighborhood. I had one of these in my own neighborhood several years ago, and the neighbors and I all pitched in together because it is a very much effect on the property values in your neighborhood. And we mowed the lawn, we made sure it was always locked and secure so that it didn't get squatted in. I even parked a car in the driveway just to make it look like somebody was there. And I'm not saying that's what everybody should do, but this is something everybody needs to be very concerned with because it affects everybody in the neighborhood and your property values. Code enforcement is what we really need to bolster here in Spokane to help with this issue. We're understaffed just like we are with police, with code enforcement. And also we need to go and help the banks speed up the process by enacting laws at the state level to help get inventory back into stock of the market.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Stratton.
So yes, as far as District 3, we do have an issue with zombie homes, and there are a couple things that I will touch on. The first is, and I will give a shout out to city employee Matt Folsom, who's an attorney in our civil department. I have worked with Matt in a few instances, and one in a very personal situation where the city was able to, he's been working on a process for the city to get the houses, get those zombie houses into receivership and appoint a trustee to manage the homes. It is working. He started with 5 as a kind of a trial to see how it would play in the courts, and working with the banks because it's difficult to know. Sometimes the titles go to so many different banks that it's hard to track all that down. He's been very, very successful in that, and he continues to do that. And the second part of that is our Community Housing and Human Services Department. Paul Troutman manages what we call Community Development Block Grant Funds and other HUD monies that do allow cleanup of homes, and he's done several in East Central. The last I checked with him, it was about 15 that they were able to clean up, get back on the market, and get some first-time home buyers in those homes. So we do have a path forward. It is working, and we're looking for more houses to do that with.
Okay, thank you. And as we continue looking at housing issues, there's been a lot of discussion about affordable housing in our community. Much of it centered on incentives to increase the supply of housing and access to it by low-income individuals and families. Could you address the other side of this equation? Are there barriers, regulatory or otherwise, that exist in Spokane that are impacting the development of more affordable housing units? As a city council member, what specific steps would you support to address any of these issues? Ms. Stratton, we'll start with you.
I think one of the big issues that City Council has dealt with, and we just recently passed, was an ordinance that the city could look at surplus property and make that surplus property available to mainly nonprofits that want to come in and build some affordable housing. And I think that that's been, we have some units coming online that will be built under that model, so I was proud to support that. I think that we as a community need to make the decision, and I believe it's the right decision, to really focus on centers and corridors and available land in centers and corridors that we can build affordable units, not just for a certain age group, but I think we have an aging senior community that is in need of affordable housing that is in areas where they can take the bus, they can go to a restaurant, they can pick up their prescriptions, they can visit a doctor, and I think we're on the right path with that. But I think the challenge has been, where do those go, what kind of properties are available, and what incentives do we provide to make that appetizing for a builder or a nonprofit to come in and put up some affordable housing.
Okay. Mr. Rathbun?
We need more homes, definitely. I'm so pleased that my former home base of Fairchild is growing with another new squadron coming. We're going to have hundreds of new citizens moving to Spokane and falling in love with our city. But they need homes. And we don't have a market that's ready for the growth. We need to build up and out into the surrounding region. I won't speculate on examples, but each proposed project deserves its own conversation. We need to build housing in all rungs of the housing ladder so that people can move through the market and vacate affordable homes so other people can enter the market. And we need to build, as Councilman Stratton said, in our centers and corridors. We need to work with the builders and talk with them and work with the planning department and the permitting department and incentivize them to fill in where they can to work with our comprehensive plan.
Okay, thank you. In terms of property crime, continues to plague many Spokane neighborhoods. Please discuss the extent of property crime and its impact in your district. What specific actions would you as a city council member take to address the property crime problems? Mr. Rathbun.
Well, we need more law enforcement officers in our neighborhoods and downtown. I voted to support Prop 1 earlier this year to begin to do that. I'm very grateful for my community resource officer in our neighborhood. She is a very critical part of our community. The COPS program came out of my community when 2 little girls were abducted and later found dead in Riverside State Park many years ago. They went to the same school and were just a year older than my daughter at the time. We didn't think an increased block watch program was enough, so we organized, won the attention and support of Chief Mangan at the time, and eventually formed the COPS program. We all have a responsibility in a safer Spokane. Our COPS West program is something I'm proud to have helped become a reality. Now we need to bolster that program throughout the neighborhoods and downtown, and we need more police presence.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Stratton.
I would agree that neighborhoods are important, and the COPS program is very, very successful and very, very well known. I sit on the board. I've been on the board the last couple years and have worked with those volunteers that work in those neighborhoods to keep people safe. We definitely need the last budget. City Council put in the last budget to hire more neighborhood resource officers. We need those officers in our neighborhoods. We need probably more in those that are a little higher crime rates. the other thing that people need to call in, every time I go to a neighborhood meeting, we always have a neighborhood resource officer that joins me. And the big speech that they give is, even if you think no one's going to show up, call and report that crime, because they collect that data so they can know exactly where the high crime areas are. The second advice they give people is lock your car doors. The neighborhood resource officer said at the last meeting, you'd be surprised at how many people forget to lock their cars. And it is an issue, and we all want to be safe in our neighborhoods, but I think we have great programs. We passed a levy that is going to bring more police officers on our streets. We have more neighborhood resource officers. We have Paws on Patrol, where we're actually engaging citizens and their dogs to walk through their neighborhoods and to look for anything that might look out of place that they can report. We're involving a lot more people than we used to, and I think that's going to be successful.
Okay, thank you. We're going to move into a question specific to your district that you, Mr. Rathbun, actually alluded to earlier, and that is with continued building and growth in Northwest Spokane, Indian Trail traffic congestion continues to worsen. And you might be able to identify other areas here tonight. So please give us any further insights into this issue and how you suggest the city help mitigate the traffic issues in your district. We'll start with Ms. Stratton.
So the specific to Indian Trail, that has always been a concern to me. There's a lot of development that goes on that is going on at Indian Trail, and there's literally one way in and one way out. Used to be 2 lanes, and I used to worry when I doorbelled 4 years ago during the fires. If I lived way up in Indian Trail and I had to get out during rush hour, how would I get out? And I think that's a concern for the citizens up there. We have included, or we've added a second lane going south out of Indian Trail, which I think has helped. We are looking at the sidewalks and the school crossings to try and make those safer. But I think Indian Trail is at a point right now with the in and out, the one-way in and out, that's a development question, and that's where the neighborhood has stood up and said, we don't need any more cars up here until something else happens, until we get a wider street or we get more lanes of traffic. It's a huge concern. Other neighborhoods in my district, we work hard on speed, a lot of traffic calming issues on Garland, Monroe. As people drive through town, you're going to see more of those flashing lights that say your speed is, you need to slow down. That's a lot of work of the neighborhood councils. But I would say Indian Trail to me is the example of what happens when there's too much development and not enough emphasis on infrastructure. And if we're going to have this many houses, how do people get in and out?
Okay, thank you. Mr. Rathbun.
Yeah, back to my theme when I was doorbelling, safe streets are a priority when it comes to our daily drives. I'm definitely also against more road diets because we need to be able to get around town without frustration. As I said, when I was doorbelling up in 5 Mile and Indian Trail area, the people talk about the increased traffic over the years. And this summer, when I was up there also, it was very exasperated because of all the construction that was going on. And as I said before, I looked at a map and I see the big dark hole where the old dump used to be, and I just think that there's not enough outlets, and I think we should be able to put a road through there or at least off to the side of there somehow, just to create another outlet to get from Indian Trail to 9 Mile Road. And then I'm not the only person probably to say what I'm about to say now, but we have to finish the North-South Freeway. It's critical to alleviate all the wear on our streets from the commercial traffic and the congestion. And then additionally for my district, being up there in the way far north end of the city, once that roadway is completed, people can go north, get on that freeway, and get to the airport within 15 minutes.
Okay, thank you. We're going to go to your closing statements now. So you each have 1 minute for a closing statement, and we'll start with Mr. Rathbun.
Hi, I'm Andy Rathbun, and I want to earn your vote, but more importantly, I want to earn your confidence. In my 30 years as a navigator and a mission commander in the United States Air Force and the Washington Air National Guard, I've always worked well with my fellow airmen and women. My opponent has a different experience. I'll share another quote from the Inlander regarding the mayor. She said, "We both probably need to consider reaching out to each other. I don't think he is necessarily ready to do that, and I'm not ready to do that." Folks, I think we're ready for a different kind of politics in Spokane. During my decades on the West Central Community Center and the West Central Neighborhood Council, we made progress because we worked together. That's how we will take on the important issues of our time, together. I want to thank you for your time. Please vote and encourage your friends and families and neighbors to do the same. Thank you.
Ms. Stratton, 1 minute.
Thank you, and thank you for having us this afternoon. Over the last 4 years, my job as a council member has been to keep our city strong by taking care of services that people need to live. That includes utilities, fire protection, police protection, clean air, clean water, roads, and yes, arts, culture, parks. All of this reminds us that we are a city of ideas and dreams. I've also worked hard to ensure that we have sound economic growth to provide jobs, affordable housing opportunities, great schools, parks, and recreational activities. Everything that makes a community healthy and successful. I may not get along well sometimes with the mayor, but I work for the people who voted to elect me to this position, and I stand by the work that I've done with them, and I'm proud of the work that I've done with them. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you to our participating candidates in this forum on City Council District 3, Position 1. Again, they are Andy Rathman and Karen Stratton. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And in case you joined us after the program began, here's a reminder about voting in the election. You must be registered to vote. You can register online until October 28th. Any mail-in or paper forms must be received in the elections office by October 28th, and new this year is same-day voter registration. During the 8 days prior to Election Day, you may register in person at the Spokane County Elections Office or at Center Place in Spokane Valley. Hours are Monday through Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 4 p.m., and then 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. on Election Day. When you register, you will be provided a ballot for voting. Other voter registration changes are an automatic registration process when eligible citizens interact with state agencies, and pre-registration for our 16, 17-year-olds. Registered voters will receive their mail-in ballots about 3 weeks before the election. Ballots must be postmarked or deposited in conveniently located ballot boxes no later than 8 p.m. on Election Day. Ballots can be dropped off on Election Day at one of the voter service centers. For locations of ballot boxes or voter service centers, or information about accessible voting units or other questions about casting your ballot, contact the Spokane County Elections Office at 477-2320 or online. Contact information for the candidates as well as voter guide can be found on the county elections website. Additional election information can be found at the state website, votewa.gov, and on the League of Women Voters online guide, vote411.org. On behalf of the League of Women Voters of the Spokane area, thank you to our candidates for their participation in this forum. Thank you to you, the viewing audience, for your willingness to learn more. We hope that this forum has helped you in making an informed decision when you cast your ballot by Tuesday, November 5th, 2019. Thank you for joining us.